All right, guys, so welcome to Dealer Tech Tuesdays. It is 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you guys know what time it is. It's time for your weekly Dealer Tech Tuesdays podcast. Today on the podcast, we have somebody I really look up to in the dealership space.
It's only because you're short.
The master of many things, the master of data analytics, Geno, Walsh. He's the executive manager of the QVale Auto Group. He's been... We've been working together for a long time. I mean, I would say 6-7 years now.
Yeah, it feels like much more.
It feels like much more. Yeah. Been through a lot of battles together, which is, always a fun thing to do. Spent a lot of time speaking about kind of operations of the dealership and how everything works. So that's always a fun process and always really beneficial for me because I learn a lot about how the dealership operates from your perspective, which is not a perspective that I get to see a lot, right? So today we're going to be talking about moneyballing your dealership, a concept that we talked about a long time ago and kind of talked about the analytics and how to manage the organization. But before I get into that, I wanted to kind of see, and this is a question that I ask a lot of people that are the guests, is like, how did you get into the car business?
It's on accident, 100% on accident. I talk about this quite a bit. I actually posted the other day, where did you start your car industry experience? Where did your journey start? I actually was coaching high school football.
Okay.
And I was working at the United Way. I was taking a year off before I was going to go to law school. And one of the players I was coaching's dad came up to me and said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And I just, told him what I was doing. And obviously working for United Way is not a very fruitful financial activity. But it gives back a lot of qualitative things, not a lot of quantitative things. And he handed me a business card. The business card had a bank name on it. And I remember going to my wife and like, "Hey, look, this guy wants me to come and meet him and, nice bank." And she's like, "Oh, you definitely got to go." And so I went over, spent some time with him. And then he walked me right across the street to a double wide trailer, which was there's about 300 or 400 cars on the lot. Jeez. And it was a buy here, pay here.
Okay.
And it was called Anything on Wheels. And it was about an 8-hour interview process.
Oh, wow.
I remember looking at the guy at the end of the day and I was like, "So did I get the job?" He goes, "Yeah, come back tomorrow." And so every time that my wife says that I'm working too many hours or I have to fly too many places, I go, it's all your fault. Like literally, it's all your fault. He thought I was going to get this cushy bank job.
Jeez.
And it wound up turning into being retail. And, for me, it's a happy accident. It really has been the labor of love for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not so great. But most of the times it's exciting and engaging and thrilling. And you get to be part of where this thing's all going.
So what were you doing at the buy here, pay here? I mean, were you...
So I started off sales and then I did F&I and then I, became an operations manager and I was going between 3 different stores, kind of just fitting in wherever they needed me to fit in F&I sales. I was a buyer for quite some time. So I was buying pre-owned vehicles. So my day started at like 5 in the morning.
Jeez.
Going to the auction. This is before a lot of the online buying back in 2002, 2001. Yeah. And, I'd literally, take a piece of paper and write down all the run lists and look at I had a black book, gray book, and a big fat truck book. I'd check the dipsticks and, check all literally I was doing that in the morning. I'd buy some cars, drive back to the retail, to the service facility, the reconditioning facility, approve my recon, get in a fight with the paint and body guy and the wheel cover guy. And then I'd run over to the dealership and spend the afternoon trying to sell cars. And then right before I left, I'd go and try to collect money on the vehicles that we sold to the people who had, the captive financing loans.
Jeez.
And then I'd stay till like 11. So it would be like a 5 to 11.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane.
But, that's how I got, kind of the bones of what the industry is all about. It was beautiful, really, honestly. No, I'm serious. Like,
after that, I mean, everything's downhill, right?
No, but it was just one of those things where like, I remember learning so much from that experience and getting to see like the bottom level of our industry, the real supply demand side of it and the grittiness of repossessions and the grittiness of, fixing cars that were like not so perfect and dealing with, heat cases that were, not hey, this form wasn't signed properly. It was more like, no, you're taking the car back, or I'm coming through the front window.
If you drive it off the lot, it falls into pieces. You own both pieces.
So sometimes it was a disaster, but it was like a beautiful disaster because I felt really gratified. Some of the days we'd sell 20, 30 cars.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, 20, 30 cars out of a double wide trailer with, one toilet. And,
wow.
We were the first independent dealership in the Southeast, maybe even in the eastern part of the United States, with a dealer.com website. I remember doing that.
Really?
And my boss thought I was crazy for doing it. Right? We used to have Auto Trader. They would take our inventory for free. It was like $99 a month or whatever it was to have a website. And I was like, no, we need to get a real website. And so we had a dealer.com website.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, to spend that amount of money for an independent is usually out of the cards, right? Yeah,
but I mean, anything on wheels was such a beautiful place because literally we sold anything on wheels, and we had
really
$500 cars and $15,000 cars and $30,000 cars, and
man,
and we had this thing where we would take all of our $100 cars that we take in an appraisal, and then once a year we'd write them down to $1, and then we'd sell them for whatever the year of ownership was. I think it was 29 years. Once we sold 29 cars for $29.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Jeez,
so,
that's incredible.
So my experiences, started down there, and I think it was really good. It was a very good view of what it's like at that fundamental level, like the creation level of the automotive industry. So my entry point was different.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that entry point of the buy here, pay here, kind of your own special finance, you're a man of many hats at where you are now. I mean, you were a man of many hats there.
Nothing scared me after that. Let's
yeah,
put it
exactly.
That way.
Exactly. I mean, if you're forged by the fires of that,
it's
anything else
primordial fires of the auto industry.
Yeah.
So, but it was wonderful. It was a beautiful time. Customers were awesome.
Oh, that's great.
The challenges were difficult, but it was fundamental stuff, supply, demand, and we didn't have a lot of the apparatuses, the digital apparatuses that we have now that guide us. We had to do it by a lot of guts and feels, and constant, what I would call back in the day was minding the crops. We'd go out there and touch cars once every 2 weeks and write the cars down and see what we had into them for inventory. It was a really physical experience as compared to what it is now.
Tactile and operational.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
Jeez, that's funny. So what skills do you think that you picked up from there that?
Well, I remember my boss always used to say, devil's in the details. And that was probably one of the biggest life skills that I got out of that, is that if you want to be really, really successful in anything, you got to get down to the granular level. You have to be able to see what was the impetus of that success. I never want to win by circumstance. I always want to win because, I put it all on the field.
Yeah.
I put it all out there and I got it all back. I don't want to be like, oh, we did really good, and at the end of the month you're like, well, how you look at the the data and you're like, hey, we probably could have done a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I learned from that experience was getting deep into the details and building processes that helped you with efficiency.
Yeah.
And then also being able to understand that you're responsible for everything. When you're a single dealership and you don't have a new car franchise to bring you trade-ins, you're literally you're in the boat all day long and you're paddling.
You live by the sword and die by the sword. Yeah, absolutely. There's no phone a friend, right? When you're an independent guy.
No.
Wow, man. Jeez. So what would you say your hardest challenge during that time was? What adaptation of being, you come from a athletic background, which is, kind of a great foundation for the car business. How did you take those things, and what was the hardest lesson that you learned through that process?
Well, I definitely did a lot of, you would work throughout the week for game day, and game day would be the weekend.
Yeah.
So that was a really good, fundamental experience. You're buying your cars on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, getting them prepared on Thursday and Friday, and then sale day, Saturday and Sunday. You're building your marketing throughout the week that way.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of muscle memory repetition of your process. I've definitely brought that into my current role. You know, we're very structured in the way in which we communicate with each other,
and that's pretty rare, right? For an independent dealer to say super process oriented, that, you know, you're creating a game book for the weekend, or, you know, getting heavy process driven on that level. It's not necessarily common, right?
No, it's not common for people that are not in buy here, pay hairs.
Just in general,
yeah, just in general, you know.
Yeah.
Success sometimes is marginal, right?
Yeah.
Like you could put a lot of effort in and not get a lot back.
Yeah.
And those are the times in which you see some of even your staff members kind of, you know, give up on activities. And they're like, the only two things we can control is our attitude and our activities.
Yeah.
And then
Ain't that the truth?
And then the activities is the only thing that you can really measure, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I always kind of stress to everybody is like, you know, you have to have a plan and you have to work that plan and those activities and monitoring those activities. They're going to be, you know, you're building that house, right? And over a time period, it's the foundation, and then it's the roof, absolutely. And then it's the inside, and before you know it, you have this beautiful house. But like when you first look at it, it's daunting and it's challenging. But you know, with activities, it's the same way. Like, you know, sometimes you're going to be terrible at phone calls for the day, or emails, or text messages, or Carfell maps, or any of the things in which way we communicate and try to grow demand and create demand at the dealership level. But if you do it consistently enough, right? Because consistency is greater than intensity. Then on the other end of it, you're going to see the success, and then you'll look back and say, "How the hell did I ever perform without these things?"
Yeah, absolutely. It was just dumb luck or something, you know.
Yeah, well, I'd rather be lucky than good, but it's good to be good and lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like when preparation meets opportunity, right? Yeah. I mean, and that's the case. Like, you know, how much, you know, I resonate with that conversation that we have, is that it's like, don't look at the 30, look at the, you know, 6 months, look at the 12 months. It's like, how are you going to get better over that arc? And I've always had that thought, is like, are the incentives set up correctly? You know?
Well, it just depends. Like if a lot of our folks that are working on the ground level, they only see the ground level, right? Yeah. Like it's hard for them to see outside of even a day. Forget about 30 days. So it's your job as a leader to kind of, you know, layer in the direction in which you're going. Yeah. You know, what we say now is that the road to success narrows. And so, like, what was successful for you today is not going to be successful for you tomorrow or even today. Yeah. And then you'll look back 6 months from now and you'll go, wow, I can't believe we were doing it that bad, right?
I can't believe we're doing it that bad.
I'm serious. Like, it's one of those things where, you know, you implement a new process. Yeah. And what I've learned especially over the last, you know, 2 years, but even over the last 5 years, is just start. Like, like you're going to spend all this time trying to create this perfect process. And then when you implement it, it's going to fall apart anyways.
So
100%. Start. You have a good idea. You know, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 pillars of how you want to do this process. But the customer and the people that work with you are going to be the ones that dictate how it's going to flow.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And if you don't take the feedback from how it's playing in the field, and don't adjust on that feedback, it's over.
And so then we're really talking about cultural. Things, right? That's probably one of another thing that I got from working at Anything on Wheels way back 20 years ago. You know, the culture was good there. It was merit-based culture. It was,
that's huge. Yeah.
You know, we followed through. We did the processes. We, you know, did everything that was in front of us to make sure that we were successful. It wasn't circumstantial.
And that could have gone either way, right? It could have been like, grow your process structural muscles, or grow the toxicity, right? It could be go down the other path, and you could be
every day. You get a choice every day.
Every day you get a choice. Yeah.
Which dog are you going to feed?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Are you going to feed the negative one, or are you going to feed the positive one?
That's so important, man. It's so important. And I think you see it in the organization. And I think I've been around you guys long enough to see, like, once, you know, you get more people in those positions, that culture just permeates to the whole organization, and it's incredible to see it from an outsider's
Yeah, I mean, we have 7 commitments at QAG, QVale Auto Group, which number 1 is to have the right attitude. Go figure.
Yeah.
Right? You need that first and foremost. Number 2 is to be of service to your team members and clients.
Yeah.
Number 3 is to have a definite team and personal goal and purpose. Number 4, which I love, is to apply innovation. So if you find something like a life hack in your business to make somebody else's life easier, let's get it done.
Yeah.
You know, number 5 is to have willingness, which means it's a state of readiness. Be prepared to learn new things, right? Like
A lot of people are willing to not do anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's tough.
Number 6 is to be productive. And when I mean productive, you've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
It's like me and you both get the phone call. The internet is out. The fires, the electricity. And I have to like unstick people.
Yeah.
And I go, well, how do you become productive right now? Like,
Yeah.
do you have an iPhone? And they're like, yeah. Okay, does it have a Wi-Fi hotspot? Yeah, it does. And I go, do we use an iPad to sell cars now? And they're like, yeah. So why don't we connect the iPad to that, and then we'll be able to sell cars? Oh, wow, that's amazing.
How did you think of that?
But that's what I mean. Be productive. Like water always finds its way.
Yeah.
And if you choose to just be stagnant, then that's what your choice is, right? So, or you can be productive. That's part of it. And then, number 7 is to hold yourself accountable. And our culture is what we allow. Yeah. And that happens every day. So that's the feeding the positive and the negative dogs, right?
What do we allow? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like how big of a shift have you guys seen since starting to implement core values? I mean, I would imagine that drilling those things down isn't easy, and getting people to adapt to a new process.
The cool thing is I didn't write them. They got written by people much younger than me. And we put up on a board, and they're the ones that kind of agreed that these are the things I'd like to work in an atmosphere that's like this. When you talk about it with the team over and over again, you present it in front of the team over and over again. And sometimes it's the bad moments that, you get to bring it out and say, hey, where do we fail on these commitments? Yeah. Like, which one of these? Like, did you have the right attitude? Because if you didn't, then this is probably why it happened. And this is for life and business, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, if you're not of service to people, if you're not trying to apply innovation, if you're not being productive, you're not willing, you don't set yourself a monthly, weekly, yearly goal, like next thing you know, you're like, oh, well, that was 2021.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then you're 70.
Well, I'll get him next year.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're 70 and you had an uneventful life. Yeah.
So that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to train men and women to become the better version of themselves. Yeah,
the traditional old way of looking at it is like there's a separation between who you are at home and who you are at work, and that to me it doesn't exist. No, right? You're the same. It's not like you take, you become Iron Man and you take.
Well, when you work as much as we do, there's no. It's blended. Yeah, for
exactly.
Sure.
100%.
Yeah, the other thing I would tell you is if you're not extremely transparent with the people that work around you, and when I mean transparent, it's like you're showing them on a daily basis why their position matters. Yeah. And what they do, and how it affects everybody around them, and especially how it affects our ability to be successful. And in the financial statement is the ultimate barometer of success. Yeah, isn't it? And if they don't understand that, then they won't feel the passion or the desire to fulfill that role, right? And then once they learn that, then they want to learn more, right? Like they want to go from a sales manager or a salesperson or a team lead to become a general sales manager, or even a general manager, or a service manager from a service advisor. And so I think one of our, it's not on our list of commitments, but I think one of the thread that weaves its way through our culture is the transparency and our ability to kind of coach and train and educate the people that work underneath us. Yeah. Because that's how we're going to be the most successful. And you have to do it with this mindset that, like, I might train this person so well that someone's going to steal them. Yeah. And you got to be okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because if you limit their ability, or you narrow their view, then you're not going to be the most successful operation that you possibly can be.
Yeah, I think the common thread between all those core values is vulnerability. Oh yeah. It's like being open to, like, I'm going to, put a little bit of my soft side out there and be open to, to somebody taking somebody because they become incredible at their job, or they looked at another opportunity, or they've grown personally to such a level that they, you know, maybe the it's not the right timing and they can leave and come back, and just some like fluidity in the organization rather than it being this rigid, you know, I'm gonna keep you down or whatever that looks like.
Well, you know, I have a saying that I stole from one of the buy here, pay here conventions that I went to, and this is kind of, it works in opposite to the vulnerability thing, but you know, when holding somebody accountable, I used to always think about this is if the tree isn't strong enough to hold you when you lean on it, then it's probably not going to hurt you when it falls down. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're not willing to become vulnerable to train, teach, and motivate people underneath you, and give it all that you possibly can, then that thing's never going to turn into a tree that you can even lean on.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that where they...
Ain't that the truth?
And you can walk away from somebody that you know you've given everything that you possibly can, and you've grown them to the best version of who they're going to be at this moment, and have a lot of confidence that you're going to be successful, or the best part of successful that you possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's... I mean, a lot of it is fear-based, right? It's like, how are you driving the organization? From a place of fear, or from a place of... you know, a place of lack or a place of abundance? You know, it's like, what does your mentality look like? That's such like a mentality of the desert, or
like red hot chili peppers. Give it away, give it away. Like you literally have to give away everything that you've learned for such a period of time, because if you don't, then they're going to go find it somewhere, especially these younger folks. Yeah. You know, these younger folks are not willing to sit around and stagnate for 4 or 5 years, and then, you know, then they get a hit to the next level and stagnate for 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And they want it now, right? Like they want to be
a dealer principal in the second year in the business.
So like, if you're not feeding their heads, then they're going to leave you, and they're going to find somebody who is, and then you're going to be like, why can't we keep anybody? Yeah, because you're not wanting to develop anyone.
That's. I mean, there was a really interesting conversation. Oh, well, there's this like you know, one of those things that you see on LinkedIn is like the CEO talks to the CFO and is like, we need to train our staff. It's like, and the CFO says, what if we train them and they leave? And then the CEO says, what if we train them and they stay?
What if they train them and they stay?
Yeah, it's like, what if we don't train them and they stay? It's like, at what cost are you willing to kind of keep the thing held? Right?
Well, you can't grow if you're the only person with the information.
There's no way.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah. And I see you do that a lot. Is like you're constantly giving out information, and you're willing to just share all the information as possible, because I think that's how you grow a structure at scale. If you're not doing that and you're coming from a place of fear, it's like, oh no, they're going to leave to somewhere else. It's like the cool thing is that I've seen the organization long enough that I see people cycle in and cycle out. Right? It's like people become better.
I mean, we got people that worked with us that are now VPs of warranty companies.
Exactly.
And COOs of big industries that are in in our vertical, and
which is powerful.
General managers, and it's cool because that's what's supposed to happen. I mean, there's only a certain amount of seats, anyways.
Yeah, right? There's only a certain amount of seats. Yeah.
But that goes back to number 2, is be of service to your team members and clients. Yeah. Like if you're limiting their ability to grow, then you're not being of service.
Yeah. So how are you guys adapting to the kind of the new landscape of post-COVID, what everything's happening, the constant change? Like, how are you guys adapting to that?
Agility is always like, one of the most important things that you can have as far as adaptation is concerned. But we took meetings that used to be done physically in place, and we're doing it more in these little 15-minute to 30-minute increments. Sometimes they're a little bit longer when we have more information to go over. But I would say like the number one thing that I've gotten back over the last 16, 17, 18 months is that like you're spending all this money with these strategic partners. Bring them into your Microsoft Teams meeting or your Zoom meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
And make them present.
Yeah, 100%.
And so we've gotten a lot out of that. Like we hold people, again, number 7, hold yourself accountable. We're holding them accountable because we're spending money with them. And we've created these really cool, cadenced meetings. So Mondays we're doing, service meetings. Tuesdays is kind of your state union. Wednesday is kind of my baby, which is the QAG Modern Retail webinar. And so during during lockdown months where we actually weren't allowed to have any salespeople. We brought all the general managers in because they had to run the stores. But we literally brought in everybody to just do mass educations. And so whether it was V-Auto or Car Wars or, Update Promise, or we brought in, Clairvoy, or we brought in Darwin, or we brought in Dealer Socket, every single one of our vendors that we're spending money on, Car Film App, we were like, okay, so now teach us all the new stuff and tell us if we're doing it right. And let's talk about reporting, right?
Tell us if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
If we're doing it right, it's huge.
Yeah. And so, and that like gave me an idea and a fundamental understanding of like, if I'm going to go out and try one of these vendors or one of these strategic partners, they have to have kind of three, benchmarks for me in order for me to be able to do it. Number one, is it a unique experience for the consumer? Number two, does it have robust reporting? And number three, can I put a pay plan around it? So I call it the URP.
The URP?
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you're not the second P, you're the first P. So, but the URP, right, is like, is it a unique experience? Does it have robust, reporting around it? Can I put a pay plan around it? Because then I know that I can get that, what the strategic partner or the vendor says that like is a reality, because a lot of it's just vapor. And then I can turn it into a reality. And we've been very, very, very successful with that methodology, that approach.
Because it I think in some capacity forces a proper implementation of it.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. That's one of the things that I see most organizations fail at, is the implementation of a great product. That's terrible. And if you're designing your pay plan and you're messing with people's pay, you're already getting buy-in from the get-go, right? So you have to start bringing them in from, just like the most valuable point.
You're incentivizing adoption. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because if there's no skin in the deal for them, there's no reason for them to want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, once you're like, okay, well, we need 90% utilization. If we don't get 90% utilization, it's going to cost you X.
Yeah, that's
right.
Huge.
If you have rules without consequences, whether they're pleasure or pain, then they're not really rules.
Yeah,
they're just suggestions.
Wishes.
Yeah. I suggest that you do this. I know that's a subtle form of command, but at the same time, it's really not a rule.
I wish that you do this. Yeah, that's terrible.
We have a lot of people that are out there.
I think the plain devil's advocate, the people on the other side of that they say, well, I'm paying them to do a job, so they should do that. And I was like, that doesn't compute.
If that's your process, you're paying them to do the minimum to accomplish their job.
Exactly. Show up on time.
Yeah.
And make the calls.
Well, hire the right people. Well, why don't you do both?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a thing called the miracle of and.
The miracle of and.
Hire the right people and hold them accountable.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I like to call that option D, all the above.
Yeah.
Do all the above, man. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah,
we have these arguments a lot. It's like, you either have to do this or this. And it's like, no, you don't. You can do all the above. You can create a place that exists that you do all the options, where you create great people, you create great processes, and pay them on the success of that of their effort. Right.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's huge.
But the thing is, once they start following a process and they implement it becomes like, second nature for them. It's like now they know that like they can go anywhere. It's almost like a trade.
Yeah, it becomes a skill.
They can go anywhere and they can implement it themselves.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they're becoming the service manager or the sales manager for some other store.
Yeah.
Which we've seen.
Yeah.
We've had people leave and become like, we've educated them so much and developed the process so much with them that they don't go from salesperson to like sales manager. They go from salesperson to like general sales manager because they have this unique experience.
Oh wow!
And this, it's interesting because they have F&I experience and they have sales management experience and used car trade experience and CRM experience. Yeah, that's the level
huge.
of training we do with each one of our team members. Like we want to make them like little actualized, automated business managers. Go out and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we're in your way. Well, let's get out of your way. How can I make your life faster and easier? And
I think that your philosophy, which I love, is one of my favorite philosophies, about removing excuses. Like I'm going to remove all the excuses so you you don't have anything to, like, okay, sure. Is that a problem? I'll remove that excuse. Is that a problem? I'll remove that excuse. And it's like, where are we at now? Yeah. And they turn around and that's it. Like it's their performance at the end of the day. That's huge. I love that philosophy. Yeah. How did you come up with that? Like,
I mean, you pick it up from some of your own mentors. You know, we have some pretty good mentors that work for us. And, you know, they always said that to me, like Brett Macy's a perfect one. You know, he used to say removing objections, same thing. And that's what managers' jobs are to do, is to remove all the objections for success.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't have enough inventory, go out and buy some more inventory. If you don't have enough marketing, go out and find the right marketing. If you don't, you know, if you have sales staff that doesn't understand the product, go out and teach them. Same thing in service, right? And once you remove all the excuses, then it's about effort. It's about the activities and it's about the attitude, right?
Yeah.
So those are the only two controllables you have in life, is your attitude and your activities.
Attitude and activities.
Everything else is, you know, the outcomes are not certain.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to respond instead of react to things, you're going to be able to have a much greater length of adversity handling. Because it isn't going to work out the way that you want it to. You put it on the dry erase board, you typed it up, you build this big, beautiful manual, and you know, everything's supposed to go exactly to form, and you know, and then you get all the variables that come in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The market, the people, the customers, the product. Those are all variables you're not in control over.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it seems like you fine-tuned your process of getting adoption and buy-in from the staff over years, right? It's like, how did you fine-tune that process?
You just, a lot of your failures are going to give you more insight to your future successes, which means that every implementation we do of the same process is a little bit different, and you remove your inefficiencies as far as where you think that you're supposed to be. You know, like we've done single point of contact implementation 9 times now. 9 times.
Wow.
We've done it from, you know, where we built out a huge manual and we got in a room and spent all the time, and we thought we were smart. We were only going to use 3 people, and they were our best and brightest. And, you know, well, we created our own problems that way. You know what I mean? Like, because you took 3 and then you created animosity on the floor. And then the 3 that were doing the single point of contact still had the avenue to go back to the old way. Which was, to me, that was one of the failures, right? So, but that was a good learning lesson, that like just starting is probably the best thing to do. You know, the next time we did something, we did it half pregnant, right? Like, we started this process where we wanted to get somewhere, and we only gave the people that were underneath us 50% of the full destination.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then we, you know, the moment we removed the blockage for the other side of it, that's when the success happened.
Yeah,
right? Like
that makes sense.
Yeah, so, and then after that, I was like, oh, just go. Because just go, because like you have it in your idea. You know, if it's practical, then it's probably going to work. Yeah. You know, you just need to like get it going. I remember sitting down with somebody in Oakland and training them in 3 hours. These people are really smart that work for us. Like, we got to quit. We got to give them a lot more credit, right? And so I did 3 hours of training with this person. His name was Justin. And next thing I know, he immediately was like sitting there with a client going through the entire process. Yeah. Because you find a product or a unique experience that's got robust reporting and that you can put a pay plan around, and it's really intuitive. Yeah. And then they just take off with it. Yeah. Right. So and don't be afraid to change and adapt to your process as you're going, because what you think is the right way today, 6 months from now will not be the right way. Like when I said earlier, like we were doing it wrong. Like, yeah, we were doing it wrong. Yeah. And be willing to, you know, change. Don't be so structured. Like, it's really free flowing. It's all brand new, right? Like this isn't a tried and true method, right? But make sure that data is collected on anything that you're doing that's new. Yeah.
The constant that seems to always be present is change. It's like, get really good at change.
Yeah, get really good. Swim in adversity.
Swim in adversity, exactly. You're not going to have, glass waters.
I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the last 2 years have been pretty adverse.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been some of the best, it's been some of the most profitable years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm just saying, like, you have to be ready. Like,
you have to be ready for
it's
anything.
coming.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, who knows what's next? Like, literally.
There's a book that I was reading that talks about an evolutionary force. An evolutionary force changes everything. 9/11, the internet, good and bad, right? World War II, all pandemic, everything that changes things on a mass scale. It's like in the car business, it's always changing. There's always something. Every day something's changing.
I think what you're kind of pointing at is like there's usually like an event that occurs, but at the same time the event occurs, there's technology right by it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of our generations are built by that event and then this new piece of technology.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you, look at what happened last year, I don't know what the technology is. Probably more artificial intelligence than is anything.
Yeah.
But, that generation that is currently sitting, they're just being born or 3 years before that, they're never going to know a world pre-COVID.
No, it doesn't exist.
And like, my kids don't know a world pre 9/11.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't remember a world pre Jimmy Carter gas hikes.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or the moon.
Yeah,
landing on
Vietnam.
the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the end of World War II. Like, there's these different generational breaks, but there's technology. Like, you came back from World War II, and then there was like TV in everybody's house.
Yeah, exactly.
We landed on the moon.
Suburbs.
And the computer was everywhere. The internet was like starting at that time, right? Come back from the Gulf War, and then the internet takes off, right? And then the smartphone after 9/11. So there's pieces of technology that are like tied to these life events, and then things change from there. And that's kind of what's happening in our industry, right? We've had many years to be protected by franchise laws, and the point of entry is really tough. But now you're looking at folks like the Carvanas of the world and the Teslas of the world and the Rivians of the world. And I tell these guys all the time, it's like, well, I know Carvana spends a lot of money in advertising, but I don't know how much money Tesla spends. Have you ever seen the Tesla commercial?
Not really.
Have you, like, Super Bowl ad, Tesla? Elon Musk comes out and tells you how great his car is. No, never seen it, right?
Yeah, no.
Have you seen any of, like, you search for Tesla, does, like, you're fighting against 15 different dealerships for the same keyword? No.
Yeah.
But the guy sold more cars than Audi the first half of the year in the United States of America.
That's incredible.
He had an amazing last quarter, right? Whatever way he did it, he still did it. Right?
Yeah.
So there's some lessons that you can learn from there is that he's digitized his entire process. Like, if you haven't been to one of the kiosks at the mall or whatever it is, like, they don't even follow up with you. Like, think about it. They don't spend any money on advertising. They don't have any cars, like big, huge lots that are sitting around that you can go to with the inflatable flapping guy and
and the wacky inflatable.
Yeah, there's no radio ads, no TV ads.
Yeah,
their sales staff doesn't get paid to sell you stuff. There's no follow up.
There's no fast talk at the end of all that.
They don't send email blasts. I don't know if we're doing it wrong, but whatever he's doing is working. And I've asked every single manufacturer, like, what's their retention rate? How many people buy a Tesla and leave after they buy it? They won't even tell you.
Wow.
Like, you can ask some of your dealer partners and see if they know that answer. Like, with somebody, and some of the products that they're selling, they have 98% of that market. Like the X and the Y, the little SUVs and the bigger, they have 98% of the electronic vehicle market on that. So they have 98% and they have a 75% retention rate. Now, something they're doing.
They're doing something right. Yeah.
So, we don't have to do that, but we have the footprint. We have the connection to the community. So we can steal the parts we want.
Yeah, exactly.
And leave the parts we don't want.
Yeah.
And meet the customer where they want to be met. That's kind of what we talk about now with the Kabali way, which is we meet you there, whether it's online, offline, or anywhere in between. We're going to meet you there, and we're going to do it in a digital fashion. We're going to do it connected with efficiency and speed and something that we can track and monitor and try to make it better on a weekly, daily, monthly basis.
Yeah. That's That's huge to say, to really own the problem, run towards the problem rather than running away from it and saying, oh no, these guys are gonna, just excuse my French, but shit on them and say, oh no, they don't have enough market share, they're gonna spending too much money, they're losing money and then you're sitting around and nobody's walking into your dealership and you're out of business, right?
Yeah, I've heard Brian Benstock say it's like the time to build a house is when it's not rainy season.
Yeah, exactly. It's to fix the roof you got to fix the roof when the sun's shining.
When the sun's shining, fix the roof.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the sun is shining brighter than ever.
Yeah,
so now's the time where you need to really develop your processes.
Yeah,
and you got to try some stuff that might not be so successful and it might be painful and icky.
Yeah.
But you got to get through that icky. If you get through that icky, then that's where the magic is on the other side.
Yeah, and that's one of the industries that I see that most is. I don't want to know. I don't know if it's self-cleaning, but it's like I don't know if this is the right analogy, but the auto business is the sharks of the ocean. It's cleaning the ecosystem on a regular basis. The ones that are failing.
Listen, I resemble that comment. I don't know if I like where you're going with this.
But you know what I mean? It's like self-cleaning, and dealers that are constantly evolving on a regular basis are the ones that survive and keep going and keep thriving, and the guys that don't are on the sell side of a buy sell. You know what I mean? And they kind of evolve on a regular basis, and it's really interesting to see it from my perspective.
I'm sure it's pretty interesting, but sometimes being on the sell side is not a bad side either.
Yeah, either getting all the money or you haven't adapted, right? Yeah. I mean, those are what I've kind of seen the both sides. It's like you're getting all the money and somebody wants what you have really bad, or you haven't adapted.
Yeah,
and the haven't adapted is pretty common. So it's like this thing that moves forward, right? That it's like self-cleaning in some capacity, more than any other business that's out there.
Water finds its way.
Water finds its way, exactly.
Yeah. If you get frozen, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, if you get frozen, you're not going anywhere.
If you stay still long enough, you evaporate.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're coming from the mountains of the Rocky Mountains and you find the Rio Grande, you're going to the Pacific Ocean. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to find that way.
Yeah.
Right. You got to find that way, because then once you get to Pacific Ocean, the world's your oyster, right? Like you can go wherever you want in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
But you can't stay still.
You can't stay still. Yeah.
That goes back to being productive.
Exactly. I mean, but being, and I think the thread through those 7 kind of core values is vulnerable. It's like being willing to say, from an egotistical side, of being like, I'm willing to be wrong and being open to change.
Well, ego stands for easing greatness out. So if you lead from an ego standpoint, like you go out and buy keywords that are in your name because you want to buy your name and be number one, your search engine optimization was going to do that, bro. You just paid money for your own customers.
Yeah, you're double paying.
Yeah. So I mean, those are some of the that's like an instant tangible thought process on it. But you got to get out of the way of that big old ego and and just move forward and try to be as helpful as you possibly can. Be of service to people.
Yeah, that's huge.
I love it when somebody else gets the limelight. That's like probably even more gratifying for me. Paul Gomez just got 40 under 40 with Automotive News.
Shout out to Paul Gomez.
Yeah, shout out to big shout out to Paul Gomez. But here's a gentleman that started with us. I remember we just opened up a brand new point. He just came in. There was a lot of open a new point. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But you open up a brand new point and you usually don't keep anybody. He's been there since the first month.
Yep.
And he started as a sales manager, turned into a general sales manager, and now is a general manager. And now he's probably one of the leading people in single point of contact modern retail selling in the country. In the country. Not just in the state of Florida or without it, but in the country. Like people come to visit him and people call him. He's at NCM right now training. Like we're sending him to dealer school. Which goes back to being a service to your team members, right?
Exactly.
But that's so gratifying to see a guy like that succeed.
Yeah.
Those are the future, leaders of our industry.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's really exciting to watch it.
Yeah.
So
that's huge. That's huge. And I love that you guys do that,
but if you're somebody who leads from ego, they want to darken that cloud.
Yeah.
Paul Gomez shouldn't be getting all the limelight. Limelight's only for me.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it comes from that place of vulnerability. Going back to that, it's like I'm so I'm so stuck in my old ways or whatever that is, that I can't be open to change and shedding the light on somebody else and grow and grow a team member, because I think that creates a vibe, or whatever you want to call it, in the organization, that more people want to come join it because they see that this is a place that people grow rather than get stomped on and smoked out.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than being pigeonholed.
Jeez, isn't that the truth?
And no, this is you. You're gonna print these labels.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's gonna just be it.
Yeah.
And be happy about it.
Oh man. I mean, so going to the, kind of moneyballing your dealership, right? The today's topic. What how did you guys make that shift? Was that a thing that always happened?
Well, I mean,
like leading through data analytics was.
So let's go fundamentally 2001, right? Let's talk about like my experience. 2001, there really wasn't that many CRMs.
Yeah.
We had some DMSs that were out there. Like I said, we were one of the first dealer.com websites for an independent. The internet was like this fax machine. Like literally that's how leads came in. Jeez. Like you sent in an internet lead and it came through a fax machine.
Jeez.
I remember first seeing that. I was like, hey, what are they doing in that room? Oh, they're getting internet leads. And I'm like, through a fax machine? Like what? Like
Gary Glenn Ross. These are the leads.
That's what it was, right? And it was like this little room, and it was off to the side, right? So like that's 2001.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward to 2010, then the prerequisites change, right? Like if you don't have a website, you're kidding me, right? If you don't, then it's like, do you have a CRM and are you actually using it?
Oh yeah.
Is it a place to just throw people's names and information in, or are you actually cultivating out of it? Are you putting together a sales process or a follow-up process through it, right? So fast forward to 2020, now we're talking about, how are you communicating or engaging with a customer, because you couldn't do it face-to-face for like a year,
Yeah.
right? So, or at least 6 months.
Yeah.
So these are some of the, like I said, like these event level changes that you were talking about before. Like these are some of these event level changes in the prerequisites and the road to success narrowing, and you get an ability now to keep moving forward. But anything that we apply, I can't track Sharpies with smiley faces and which color worked best.
Yeah,
like that's not an available thing.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
It was the green marker. It was a green Sharpie. It was a really elongated smile.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you put you in, meet you halfway.
Yeah.
So that's not like a reality anymore.
Yeah.
So the new reality is tracking your pencils, tracking where the customers in the system, like where was the drop off? Like was it in the interview process? Was it in the trade evaluation? Was it in the price, the payments? Was it in the F&I presentation? Where's the drop off as far as following up with the customer? To the point where it's there, it's available to you.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we're doing with attribution, which we have a meeting on tomorrow from this company called Clairvoy. It's like we do IP scraping, and then we do anonymous name match back with the IP addresses into our DMS. So now I can look in my budget and say, let's not spend $65,000 on SEM. Let's spend $6,500.
Yeah, because it's not giving you anything.
It's not giving you anything. So, but you can look at your endemics and see the same thing, like who's working, who's not working, right? And you can literally get, not only can you get quantitative numbers, but you can get qualitative numbers too, because you're using the DMS, right? So I can see like XYZ, third party used car listing site brought me 15 sales, and out of those 15 sales, my front end was $1,500 a copy, and my back end was $1,500 a copy. Now, ABC third party listing site brought me 5 sales.
Yep.
And those 5 sales, my front end was negative $500 and my back end was $500, right? I can see my revenue. I can see all of that. I can see my cost per unit to produce from that advertising source.
Yeah.
So, those are some of the things we look at and we go, okay, so let's quit looking at percentages because those are tricky. They can really mess with you, but let's look at like costs per unit produced.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we can like layer in our marketing conversation. So when people come and talk to you and they want to say, hey, all these people printed the map, so they had to come here. It's like, nah, bro, I can tell you, like, they didn't. Like they might have printed it there so they can go get coffee or something, but they didn't come to our dealership. Here's the people who IP scraped from your site, right? Because they even have this on their site now. And here's the people that sold. And this is the value that you're bringing back to me.
Yeah.
From a revenue perspective and from a, a quantity perspective. So, it's available to you. Why aren't you using it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's even difficult for people to start looking in that mind frame, to start looking at it from the metadata, right? It's like how do people, this isn't, quantum physics, you know what I mean? Like to understand what the track.
I don't even need to know how they make the sausage.
Exactly.
I don't know how they make those round circular things that go from Florida to California with jet fuel.
Yeah, exactly.
I just get on.
Yeah, exactly. Get on. Just give me the information.
So you get a little bit of information that makes you dangerous, but you got to, obviously be with a strategic partner that it can explain it or layer it down for you.
Yeah.
But I don't need to know the click path trails, and I don't need to know. I mean, some of the stuff I look at it and I'm like, this is scary. Like, you can see like where the guy started at your Facebook ad and then went over to your native website and then dropped off to, Auto Trader, and then they jumped into another social media ad, and then they went to your Google My Business, and then they came back to your website, and then they made a phone call to you, and then 3 months later, then they went back to your website.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool stuff that it's available. Like, why not you want to see it? Like,
And when you see, 5,000 of those, it starts painting a picture.
Oh, it paints a huge picture
that you can start pulling information out of, which really, 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 really makes sense.
You can start spending your money wisely.
Exactly. Yeah. When I was at the dealer, it'd be like, why is the showroom empty? It's like, no, it's sunny. Everybody's at the beach.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, why is the showroom? No, it's raining. Nobody buys cars when it's raining. I was like, I didn't know the car business, so I'm like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I don't believe this at all. There has to be a reason. There's 5 million people in South Florida. There's going to be some people buying cars. Like, why isn't the showroom full? And come to find out, we weren't doing all the things that lead up to setting up the scaffolding for it to be a good month. And then you'd see those ebbs and flows and start pulling data out of it. It was the only way I knew how to run the dealership. And it was like, put myself in these shoes. It was like, I don't know the car business, so I can not deal with anything other than information or data.
Yeah, and that's how you should live your life. Just everything about, like, you get in the car and you look at and see how much gas or range that you have left.
Yeah.
You don't just jump in. I always tell the guys and gals that are leading people, I'm like, it's the beginning of the month. You're getting on a plane. Check and make sure that everything works.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to be halfway through the month and then find out that everything's not working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the big things that we look at it. And that's, if you start doing that, then they fundamentally understand it. And then we do a lot of reporting, like nightly reporting. So we have a process in sales, which is our checkout process, where you check in, check up, and check out. And the managers are doing the same thing too. So they have to hold themselves accountable on a nightly basis, and they get to see it granularly. Like, you could say, oh man, no wonder why such and such isn't having a good month. He's only got like 10 phone calls for the month. It's the 15th.
Exactly.
Like, he's just sitting up at the front door, and the up bus quit coming, right? We talked about that.
The up bus quit coming. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can't hide
Somebody
the data.
sold it. It had a microchip in it.
Yeah, it's like you can't hide the data if everybody's exposing the data, right? It's like you made 15 calls, and John made 4. Like, and John isn't, come to find out, John's not selling cars.
And what I've learned, is that the people who are the most successful do the most amount of activities. Now, they might not put it in the right places as far as counting it in the systems.
Okay.
But the ones that are the most successful are the ones that are making the most phone calls, come to work, engaging themselves, trying every single minute of every single day. And, the thing that you have to do as a leader or a manager of your team is to get those really highly successful people to start recording all of their information in your tools. Because once you do get them to do it, you get to put them on a pedestal. And you get to go, hey, you want to be like such and such. These are the things that you have to do to be like such and such.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look at the scoreboard ever. Like Nick Saban says, everybody does the play. Yep. And at the end, if we do all the plays correctly, then the scoreboard will take care of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's the same thing with such and such. That person comes into work and they're like, on a plan. They're following the process. They have the highest amount of activities.
Yeah.
And their bank account's the highest too.
Oh, yeah, and just come to find out that they've sold the most cars.
Yeah, or they service the most amount of customers in the
exactly.
lane, or they're the best F&I manager, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and how did you guys get away from the hump, or like the objection of you're just like some people would say, you're just paying me to get your outcome, rather than them saying, hey, I'm here to do a job, you should be responsible enough to do that job? Because I've heard a lot of people say that when incentivizing processes or steps along the way to produce the results, incentivize the steps rather than incentivizing the outcome. Like, how do you make that mental shift? I mean, it seems
you make it a business decision for them.
Yeah.
Like, you go, okay, here, this is what we're going to pay you to do X. This is what we're going to pay you to do X if you do Y also. It's up to you. Are you mad at money, bro? Like, literally, are you mad at money because X and Y pays you another 25% more?
Yeah.
So are you interested in, doing it your way, or are you interested in doing it, the company's way?
Yeah. It's like, are you interested in being right?
Listen, I'd rather be happy than right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just throw that down.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah.
What happens is once they start doing Y, they don't know how to do X anymore without Y.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to take care of it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we had these benchmarks for some of the sales guys that were like, okay, 300 phone calls, 150 emails / text, and 30 car film apps and 25 appointments or 20 appointments, whatever it is. And at first they're like, oh, this sucks. This is the worst. I can't believe you're doing this. I sell cars. I don't need to do all this stuff. And then, you hold their hand, you give them a mulligan every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then you come back 6 months later, they're doing, 500 phone calls and 300 emails / texts and, 50 car film apps, and they're setting all kinds of appointments. And you're like, oh, they figured it out. They figured out, like, these things work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's like once you wake up, it's hard to remember the dream.
So it's you want to get, the URP is one of them, but the other thing is, like, if you really want something to work, you have to have what we call the 3 C's.
Yeah.
It's not see the key, see the car, see you later. It's commitment to a process, consistent reporting, and competition. The only way you can do competition is to pick, show them the winners and the losers.
Yeah.
And you be transparent.
Yeah.
Here, look, this is what happens when you're committed to the process, and you fill up this activity board that we can see in consistent reporting. And guess who's the champion? Guess who's the the competition winner?
Yeah.
Those are like the red, yellow, greens. Nobody wants to be red.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be red. Yeah, exactly.
You gotta get the green.
Yeah,
you want the green, you get the green.
Exactly.
Commitment, attitude, skills, and habits. That's the cash.
Yeah.
Commitment to the process. You have the right attitude. You work on your skills and do the right habits. You're gonna get the cash.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's Jay Abraham talks about. Just being 5% better. Like, get 5% better about everything that you're doing, and you're gonna be very successful.
Yeah, because then the next day you can do 5% more.
Yeah,
the road to success always narrows.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. Jeez. Well, I think that's a great place to end it. So, Geno, thank you so much for coming, man. I really appreciate it. This will be on Spotify, so everybody can listen to it since we're recorded. So, I really appreciate you coming up by, man. It's always great to get information from a great mind and a guy that I've seen transform organizations and transform dealerships through processes. So I really appreciate you coming by, man, and I hope we can do this again.
Thanks for letting me be of service.
Great, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.